Theresa Caputo, a psychic on Long Island, and her ex-husband Larry Caputo were rumored to have secretly remarried, but neither family wanted to accept the situation as legitimate or acceptable. This relationship was particularly unacceptable to Theresa's children. They stated unequivocally that they did not want Larry to be a father figure in their life. But as a mother, Theresa made a lot of efforts to persuade her daughter, use both love and reason to some degree. However, her kid persisted and made it plain that he would never be able to accept his father. As a result, love, relationships, and familial ties come together to produce a complicated emotion that makes the situation incredibly depressing and unpleasant. Long Island medium Theresa Caputo had spent years in the spotlight, but nothing had prepared her for the chaos that erupted when rumors started to circulate among her own family and fan base. The rumor was straightforward but explosive. Theresa had secretly remarried Larry Caputo, her ex-husband. The reality was nuanced. Despite their animosity for one another, Theresa and Larry found themselves re-engaged in each other's lives after years apart. Some of their rage had been tempered by time, and they found solace in each other again during private moments of fondness and love. One evening, just the two of them, they decided to try again without any big rituals or announcements. It appeared to onlookers that love would triumph above all obstacles. However, it was a choice that reignited past scars for those closest to Theresa. The first to rebel were her kids. One evening, Theresa's daughter Victoria sat across from her mother at the kitchen table, her eyes filled with worry and bewilderment. "Mom," she murmured quietly, "I don't know why you would return to him. You recall all we experienced, don't you? You recall the arguments, the separation, and the damage it caused to us." As though her touch alone could soothe her, Theresa held her daughter's hands, her manicured nails tapping softly. "I know you're afraid, honey. I am aware that you feel deceived. However, humans evolve. Your dad is different now. Perhaps I have, too. I want you to see the prospect of a brighter future, not to forget the past." Victoria paused. As she listened, she felt conflicted because of the intense and unchanging love she had for her mother. She had a part that wanted to trust what Theresa was saying. She hoped that perhaps her parents might mend the damage. However, trust was brittle, and the wounds from the past were still very much there. Nevertheless, Theresa's kindness and calm perseverance sowed doubt in her defiance. But Larry Jr., her son, was a different matter. He was direct, and his tone was firm and uncompromising when Theresa attempted to communicate with him. "I can't do this, Mom. I won't. He no longer serves as my father and has no right to be in my life. I won't forgive him, but you might. Not after everything." Despite the tears in her eyes, Theresa made an effort to remain composed. "Whether you like it or not, Larry is still your father. Furthermore, I'm not requesting that you forget him or even extend forgiveness at this time. All I'm asking is that you allow yourself the opportunity to feel differently in the future." Her son, however, shook his head. "No, Mother. You are free to live your life as you choose, but don't expect me to act that way. I've had enough of him." Theresa was terribly hurt by the rejection and was left lying awake at night, divided between her love for her ex-husband and her commitment to the kids she had brought up. Harmony was what she desired. She desired the intimacy of spending holidays with her family and the hilarity of family dinners. Her decision, however, had now further shattered everything. She frequently discussed the value of forgiveness, healing, and love that transcended this world and into the next with her clients during her readings. She now understood, however, how difficult it was to put her teachings into reality. She sensed the disintegration of her own family, the bonds eroding under the strain of distrust and rage. Theresa once sat by herself on her veranda and gazed at the setting sun one evening. Her heart was broken, her mind weary. "Please, just guide me," she prayed in a whisper, not to the spirits she so frequently interceded with on behalf of others, but to the universe itself. "Help me figure out how to reunite my family." The days ahead were unclear. Victoria was gradually becoming more receptive, willing to at least listen because of her love for her mother. However, Larry Jr. remained unyielding because his anguish and rage were too intense. Theresa was aware that the healing process would take time and might never be finished. She was determined not to give up, though. She had always believed in love, the love that endures even when it is shattered, the love that exists between family members who suffer and are injured, and the love that exists between the living and the dead. Even though her family was split, she now held on to that belief more firmly than before. It was a depressing, complex period of her life, where family ties, relationships, and love all clashed in ways that provided no simple solutions. Theresa, however, secretly hoped, because she felt that the only thing that might transform even the most intense suffering into an opportunity for recovery was hope. But the typical Saturday morning hum filled the small coffee shop on Main Street. Under the scent of freshly baked pastries and roasted beans, the milk frother's whirred, the espresso machines hissed, and conversations hummed like background music. Theresa Caputo, Long Island medium herself, sat at a small round table in the far corner, drinking a caramel latte that was just sweet enough to counterbalance the morning, her hair as huge as her personality, her nails done to perfection. She had promised herself a day off. It would be just Theresa, her coffee, and some quiet time without any bookings, stage acts, or cameras. However, spirit has a way of disregarding human calendars, as any medium is aware. There was a whisper at first. She felt that familiar shiver down her spine as she tapped her long nails against the cup, the tingle that indicates a soul is trying to reach through. Really? Theresa wondered as she closed her eyes and let out a breath. In a coffee shop? Why can't I just enjoy my latte without interruption? However, she was also aware that she had no control over when communications arrived. A young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, sat at the table next to her. Her dark hair was twisted up in a bun, and she was nervously stirring a cappuccino that she wasn't even sipping. An elderly man, possibly her father, sat across from her, looking at the newspaper, but not actually reading it. Theresa was immediately drawn to them by spirit. Sighing, Theresa leaned over and whispered, "I don't mean to interrupt your morning, but did your mother die recently?" in her distinctive Long Island accent. The young woman's eyes widened as her head snapped up. "What?" Theresa set down her cup. "Listen, your mom is here with me. I know this is strange, but believe me, I was only here to get my coffee. She's holding your hand at the end as she shows me herself in the hospital. She claims that you entertained her with music, like a lullaby, or at least a gentle tune." The woman twitched her lip. "As she passed away, I sang to her. I believed she was unable to hear me." Theresa softened her voice and said, "She heard every note. She says that you have a lovely voice and that you calmed her down when she was scared. She wants you to get over your guilt about not being able to do more. You did everything she claims." After a moment of silence, the father put down his newspaper. He had sparkling eyes. "That's precisely what took place," he muttered. As though listening to someone no one else could see, Theresa cocked her head. "She's telling me that this was your spot while displaying a coffee cup, similar to this one. Didn't you and her get together every Saturday at a cafe?" The girl let out a gasp. "Indeed. We spent practically every weekend here." Theresa clarified, "She knew you were coming, which is why she's here today. She wants you to continue visiting since she will always be seated directly across from you. She claims that in the quiet moments in between sips, you will sense her." Tears were streaming down the young woman's cheeks as she put her hands over her mouth. "Oh my God, I thought she had simply vanished." Theresa told her, "She's not gone. She's simply unique. She also wants you to continue living. She claims that you've been considering beginning a new career, such as teaching or writing. Do it," she urges. "Don't delay." The young woman sobbed as she nodded. "I've been considering penning a book regarding her, about losing her." Theresa grinned broadly. "She just gave you your response then. Compose the book." The noise from the coffee shop subsided for a little while. All that existed was a father, a daughter, and the spirit of the woman they loved, all bound together by a message that transcended worlds. Theresa reclined in her chair and, took another sip of her cappuccino when the reading calmed down. "I came here for coffee, not work," she remarked, glancing at them both. However, Spirit must have had other ideas. Through his emotions, the father gave a little laugh. "I'm grateful," he said. Theresa gave a wink. "Grate her instead of me. It was she who discovered me in this place." The cafe echoed with the moment. Other customers, who had been acting as though they weren't listening, silently wiped their eyes. Healing had a contagious quality that spread throughout a space like warmth. After finishing her drink, Theresa got up and picked up her luggage. She looked to the young woman one last time before she left. Keep in mind her advice to write the book. Not only will your words heal you, but they will also heal others. As though it now meant more than coffee, the young woman nodded while continuing to hold onto her cappuccino. Theresa grinned and shook her head as she stepped out into the sunny Long Island morning. "Talk to a psychic over coffee," she said to herself. "Figures." She knew Spirit would find her again whether she was ready or not, so she went down the street with that knowledge. But for the majority of individuals in Hicksville, Long Island, the afternoon was typical. Customers pushed carts full with frozen dinners, milk, and bread as they hurried in and out of the neighborhood store. A trip to the grocery store, however, was rarely routine for Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. Spirits had a tendency to appear in the most unlikely locations and didn't exactly adhere to a shopping schedule. Theresa's trademark large blonde hair was practically shining under the fluorescent lights when she entered King's Market through the automated doors that day. Pasta, olive oil, and a cake for her granddaughter's birthday were on her short list. However, she experienced that recognizable change as soon as she entered. Goosebumps streaming down her arms and a tingling pressure on her chest. There were already spirits present. She smiled and rolled her eyes as she mumbled, "Really? I couldn't wait to finish my grocery shopping, could I?" She mumbled to herself, "Someone's father is here." As the air became heavier as she carried her cart along the fruit aisle, Theresa stopped next to the apples, drumming her fingernails on the cart handle while looking around at the customers. He passed abruptly, like if he had a heart attack or something with his chest. A middle-aged woman wearing a gray sweater appeared preoccupied as she picked out oranges. Theresa sensed the force drawing her nearer. "I apologize for bothering you, but may I ask you a question?" she said softly as she walked up to you. "Have you lost a loved one, such as your father, suddenly in the chest?" Oranges slipped from the woman's hands as she froze.
"What?
How are you aware of it?" Theresa nodded in a firm, yet gentle voice. "He simply moved forward. He tells me that his departure was premature. He says he didn't get to say goodbye while displaying his chest to me in the shape of a heart." Between the apples and bananas, the woman's eyes began to bubble up with tears. "That's my father. 3 years ago, he passed away after a heart attack. Dinner was scheduled for the evening." Theresa grinned broadly. "Even if you didn't see him, he's telling me, honey, that he attended that supper. He's also demonstrating a watch to me. Do you still possess his?" The woman covered her mouth in a gasp. "Indeed. I have it on my bedside table. Every week, I wound it." Theresa's gaze grew softer. "He wants you to know that he is always there for you when you do that. He has never left you." A few interested shoppers had already pulled up close, trolleys parked like barricades. Some feigned perusing, but they were listening intently to everything that was said. Theresa felt another wave of energy come over her as she turned her cart toward the bakery. This time, stronger. The urgent spirit of a man. Okay, I hear you," she exclaimed out loud, pausing in the middle of her stride. "Let me locate them." In front of the cereal aisle, she noticed a young man with tattoos. Despite his rough exterior, Theresa sensed his grief. She came right over. "Hello, sweetheart. Do you have a brother or a close friend who died in an accident? I realize this seems ridiculous. Like a collision in a car?" The man's jaw tightened as he tensed up. "Indeed. My sibling. It was 3 years ago."
"Why?"
Theresa's hands shot upward, seemingly batting the weight away. "Because he was shouting at me until I approached him, and he was standing directly behind you. Tell him it was instant. Tell him I didn't suffer. He is pleading." The man's eyes reddened and his steely veneer broke. I always wondered if he was in pain, he whispered. Theresa softly put her hand on his arm. No suffering, no pain, he says. In addition, he shows me his sneakers. Do you still wear them? Through his tears, the man laughed. Indeed. Jordans are his favorite pair. I occasionally wear them. Theresa gave a nod. Every time you put those on, he wants you to know that it feels like he's walking beside you. He is very pleased with your musical endeavors. He advises, don't give up. The young man gave her a disbelieving look. Last week, I recorded a demo. No one was aware of that. Half the store appeared to be watching by this point. These days, people were clinging to their carts like anchors amid a tempest of emotions rather than merely shopping. Theresa shook her head, half grumbling, half smiling. It looks like I'm doing a group reading by the frozen foods, but this was only supposed to be a 5-minute trip. Indeed, ghosts continued to appear. A woman near the pasta area is shown her recipe book by a grandmother. The floral arrangement depicts a small girl's spirit giving her mother daisies. As his daughter selected canned soup, a veteran saluted her. Theresa saw people smiling, crying, and gripping their hearts in shock everywhere she looked. With the ordinary aisles of milk and bread now bearing witness to a chorus of love from beyond, the entire store was turned into a hallowed place. Theresa's cart was almost empty by the time she arrived at the bakery, but her soul was full. She laughed and shook her head, grabbing the birthday cake she had come for. Just me. Even purchasing a cake is impossible for me without making it into spirit hour. The cashier muttered at the checkout line. Are you like this all the time? Theresa gave a wink. I don't pick the spirits, honey. They pick me. I'll listen to them when they want to talk, supermarket or not. She sensed the warmth of all the spirits who had passed through as she walked out of the store, the automatic doors swinging open again. She was aware that those families would go away from that day feeling lighter, more at ease, and reassured that love never fades. And it was just another Long Island day for Theresa Caputo. But spirit, in Theresa Caputo's opinion, never required elaborate arrangements to manifest. The spirits around her seemed to have their own intentions, whether she was out for a walk with her dog, shopping at the grocery store, or simply getting coffee. Theresa found herself entering Sweet Cravings, a charming small bakery on Long Island, one cool Saturday afternoon. Cupcakes baked with love, for every memory, was the sign outside. Inside, the aroma of fresh buttercream frosting, chocolate, and vanilla enveloped her like a comforting blanket. The glass cases were lined with rows of pastel-colored cupcakes, each adorned with little fondant flowers, icing swirls, or sprinkles. Emily, a young woman in her mid-20s, stood behind the counter, her apron covered in powdered sugar. Only because she was needing something sweet to go with her coffee had Theresa come in. Spirit, however, had other ideas as usual. Theresa sensed it as soon as she approached the counter, an energy that seemed to be swarming about her. She thought, oh boy, here we go, this isn't just about cupcakes, is it? As she turned her head slightly and rearranged her large blonde hair with her palm. Hello, may I assist you? Emily asked, her grin bright but worn out. Theresa raised a finger and replied, yes, honey, I'll take a red velvet cupcake. Oh wait, hold on. She put her palm to her chest as her eyes grew wide. Spirit is taking a stride forward. Do you mind if I tell something to you? I know it sounds ridiculous. Emily squinted in bewilderment, obviously not anticipating a psychic reading as part of her day at the bakery. Yeah? She cautiously answered. Theresa's voice grew softer as she leaned slightly over the counter. Your granny came forward just now. She is displaying blue frosted cupcakes to me. Did she and you bake together once? As Emily reached for the cash register, her hand froze. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Oh my God, absolutely. When I was younger, she used to prepare cupcakes on Sundays. She claimed that blue frosting always made her think of the sky. Theresa grinned broadly. Honey, she's here. I get the impression that she is really pleased that you are continuing her legacy. She is displaying her flour-stained hands to me. She is claiming that you have her gift, her baking skills. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Emily covered her mouth with her apron. except for an older couple in the corner who were drinking coffee and speaking to one another, interested in what was happening. The bakery was almost deserted. Emily trembled as she murmured, "She died 3 years ago. I opened this bakery because of her. I wished to preserve her memory." Theresa closed her eyes for a moment, as though listening, then nodded. "My dear, she is aware. Every cupcake is a love letter to me," she says, smiling. "You still can't get the buttercream quite as fluffy as hers," she adds. Emily started laughing while crying. "That is accurate. Despite my repeated attempts, hers was always superior." The place began to sparkle with a lighter energy. Emily's grandma was filling the room, embracing her granddaughter in a way that only the soul could. Theresa could feel it. Theresa added softly, "But she also wants me to tell you this. You've been anxious recently, wondering if you made the correct decision and whether this bakery can continue. She wants me to let you know that she is directing you. You're going to be more successful than you think," she continues. "Don't give up. This sweetness will spread." Emily nodded, letting out a trembling breath. "I had been concerned. I have been doubting everything, and business has been slow." Squeezing her hand, Theresa reached over the counter. "According to your grandmother, this is just the start. In addition, she is displaying to me a cupcake topped with a tiny gold star. Is there something similar here?" Emily took a sharp breath. "Indeed. Our specialty is Grandma's gold star cupcake. When I was a child, she would decorate mine with tiny sprinkles shaped like stars." Theresa smiled. "Honey, she says she's right there with you every time you make that cupcake. And with each meal, she expresses gratitude to you for keeping her alive." The old couple in the corner had crept over by now and were listening carefully. The woman mumbled, "That's beautiful," as she dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Emily laughed quietly and wiped her cheeks. "I find it unbelievable that this is taking place. You gave me the best present I could possibly hope for when you stopped in for a cupcake." Theresa gave a cheeky shrug, displaying her characteristic Long Island sense of humor. "Spirit, not me, is in charge. I suppose I just follow the frosting trail." Everyone laughed as the gloomy feelings gave way to something happier and more optimistic. Emily packed a dozen cupcakes, half Grandma's gold star and half red velvet, and pushed the box across the counter before Theresa departed. "Please," Emily said, "grab them. On the home. For bringing my grandmother to me today." Theresa touched the box, then turned back to face Emily earnestly. "Your grandmother is already here, honey. However, I'll gladly accept the cupcakes as well." Theresa brought more than cupcakes with her when she left Sweet Cravings, the fall sun spilling across the street. She was a constant reminder that even the tiniest, loveliest things, like a cupcake's icing swirl, might serve as a conduit between the living and the dead. Beyond that, in spirit, Emily's grandmother was grinning and beaming with pride as she saw her granddaughter continue their custom, cupcake by cupcake. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mina, and I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video.